You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Can't wait to get into today's topic, which is actually going to be a Toxic Thursday. Today, we are going to be going over all of the hidden symptoms of copper overload. So this is one of the most prevalent heavy metal toxicities in our modern day world, and I'm going to go over exactly why today. I will also go over the specific symptoms that you may be relating to other autoimmune, energy, fibromyalgia, allergy, learning disabilities, skin issues, etc., and how they can actually be linked to copper overload and the imbalances that it creates in the body with certain minerals, we'll talk about those, and vitamins as well. And then, of course, I will always make sure that you are left with a plan that includes foods, nutritional supplements, detox-based protocols, specifically to remove the copper safely from the body, while enabling you to build back the other stores so the body comes back into balance naturally. Remember, we never want to force the body. We don't want to drive it too far in one direction, because when we do, you're not going to feel so good in the process. And you're also not going to be able to stick with it. The body's not going to stick. It's not going to stay unless we do this at a foundational based level. And a foundational based level means going back to really understanding what we're talking about. So when someone says, oh, you have high levels of metals, well, first of all, we need to know which ones. Second, we need to know what it's doing and why it happened in the first place. So we're going to talk about copper today. Copper is a little bit different. So when we talk about copper-based toxicity, we have to understand its antagonist. So that means its opposite. Now remember, everything in the body has an opposite. And lo and behold, they talked about this in Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, symbolized by the yin-yang, but also symbolized in every form of natural-based medicine, which has a polar opposite. So, for example, when we look at the vata, it's often balanced by kapha and the different symptoms there, right? We have the heat or dryness, also balanced by wetness and dampness. We need both. We can't have them completely. You can't have it that way. It's all about balance. So when you're talking about copper, we need to know its partner, its antagonist, because copper is not a bad thing. The problem is too much copper is a really bad thing in the body. And we'll talk about how it accumulates. But its antagonist is zinc. This is such a key point, because right now we live in a modern day society where we are becoming depleted of zinc. One, through foods and nutrition, and the second is simply because of the bombardment on the immune system, the nervous system, the endocrine system, and our detox pathways, all very dependent on zinc. So we're using them up at a much faster level. Well, if we're using up zinc at a much faster level, but we're not using up copper at the same level, what happens is we become imbalanced. So this is one of the many reasons, but what happens is this. Copper, so when you look at a hair tissue mineral analysis, this is very important, because they don't teach hair tissue mineral analysis in no matter what school you go to. So you learn about a lot of these functional medicine-based labs after, like doing postdoctoral work, or you become an integrative health practitioner, whatever it might be. You learn about it from other practitioners who have been using this for, let's say, 40 years. So it's very interesting, because Dr. Paul Eck was one of the first ones who started analytical research labs. People from analytical research labs broke off and went to do trace elements, but it's all read the same way, whether you read Jeffrey Bland's books, Dr. Mauer's books, Paul Eck's books, Dr. Lawrence Wilson's books. They all say the same thing because it's the truth. So we look at all of the imbalances. We look at, again, calcium and magnesium, they're partners. Sodium and potassium, they're partners. So we have to understand the importance of too little zinc, because zinc is the calming mineral. It's the anabolic mineral. Think of copper then as more of the catabolic or excitatory. Now, what does that mean? Well, we talked a little bit last week about neurotransmitters. They're chemical messengers. Well, copper actually stimulates what we call more of the emotional-based side of us. And it ramps up neurotransmitters such as dopamine or norepinephrine or epinephrine. And why does that matter? Because we can begin to feel higher levels of irritability, rage, schizophrenia at different levels, OCD, phobias. All of this can be because of higher levels of copper. And every time I say higher levels of copper, also think lower levels of zinc. Because as I begin to pull things together at the end, you're going to realize that this does not have to be difficult. That these are everyday issues many people are dealing with, but it does not have to be difficult to overcome, nor does it have to be expensive. All right, so we know now that copper can cause a lot of issues with our emotions. Super important. And also, as zinc becomes more depleted, well, we have a lot of taxation now on the adrenals. So think about it. Zinc is used in a tremendous way by the HPA axis in the adrenals. The nervous system, affecting the endocrine system, neuroendo, and then the immune system. And zinc's absolutely needed for white blood cell formation, etc. So now we have this exhaustion on the adrenals, this taxation on the adrenals. We're feeling overwhelmed. We're feeling this massive sense of urgency all of the time. Things have to get done. I forgot about this. I need to do this. That is a good sign that you might be deficient in zinc and or high in copper. So what I look to do is look at one more place, and I'm going to list the symptoms, but also the digestive system. This has to do with yeast-based infections, acne, maybe some pallor or not a good color in the face or skin, fatigue-based issues, IBS, slow liver or gallbladder function in terms of detox, but really moving bile. So it can absolutely affect digestion. I mentioned chronic candida is a real problem. And one more thing that I'm going to mention in just a moment is that it can often happen with women taking birth control during pregnancy, where copper can start to build up because the body doesn't do as much detoxing during pregnancy, because that would be counterintuitive for the body as it's building new life. And one more thing too is copper IUDs that we hardly ever talk about. So we've got birth control, which is going to affect zinc levels in copper IUDs, and then we have pregnancy as well, which is affecting many, many women. I'm going to get into more ways of how you can build up copper in your body, because obviously this goes for men as well, just as many men as women. But let me give you some more of these symptoms. Fibromyalgia, learning-based issues, hyperactivity, sleep issues, inability to keep muscle on the body, lower mood, headaches, PMS-based symptoms, depression, craving of salty foods or carbs, oftentimes because of gut-based issues, weakened immune system, so you catch every cold or every virus, maybe easy to bruise sometimes. It's not just vitamin C, it's not just too much fish oil, it's not just enough iron. Could be zinc, could be copper balance. Fatigue, again, I mentioned that, a big part of that. Your ability to handle stress, your ability to handle multiple projects at the same time, your inability to make decisions, right? If you're indecisive, it can be another issue going along with copper overload. Allergies is a big one. Lack of zinc can lead to allergies. Copper overload can lead to allergies. Skin rashes, unexplained skin rashes. Drier skin can be because of copper overload as well. And then overall, just tired mind, tired body, just kind of checked out. You just don't feel strong. That's a big part of zinc. Zinc is an anabolic mineral used to boost those hormones and make you feel strong. And if you don't feel that way, it's certainly something to look into. So I wanted to mention that. All right, the next part is this, is where are we getting all of this copper from? And then we'll talk about how to get rid of it. I'll give you some food sources first. The most popular. I'm not going to go into some random ones. But those people that are on more of a vegan-based diet. Again, I'm on more of a plant-based diet, vegan-based diet, so I'm including myself in this. But those people who are eating more legumes, more beans, more whole grains, eating more nuts, pecans specifically, pecans in some parts of the world, shellfish, soy is a big one. We're going to talk about that in a second. Avocado, coffee, chocolate. Okay, important. If you eat a lot of those, it does not mean that you're automatically going to end up with copper overload. It does not. But if you combine it then with copper-based cookware, copper plumbing, copper IUDs, birth control pills, dealing with plastics and petrochemicals and certain types of cosmetics that actually boost endocrine disruptors, that's going to affect your kidney's ability to filter out some of these heavy metals. So people ask, well, why do I have copper or why do I have mercury? Well, you might be getting the same amount as everyone else, but your liver's ability or your body's intake of all of these other toxins, like plastics, can limit your kidney's ability because it's getting gummed up with actually being able to filter these out. Super important. Okay, I'm going to go back to soy just for a second. If you're having soy more than, let's say, or tofu, more than 2 times a week, 2 to 3 times a week, that's typically the max I do in my practice for people. Now, again, it's not right for everyone, not right for a lot of people, especially those people we see with estrogen dominance. And yes, it's a phytoestrogen. It's far less invasive than a normally produced estrogen metabolite and can actually be beneficial for some menopausal women. So again, it's always who we're talking about, right? If it's GMO, then it's never, right? We never eat GMO. We're certainly never going to do that. But if it's a sprouted organic tofu, twice a week, 2 to 3 times a week, postmenopausal, lower levels of estrogen levels, I don't really have an issue with it, okay? But again, it's person by person. Soy and me, we don't mix. We don't mix at all. I get horrible estrogenic-based effects from eating soy. Now, it's not as bad with regular tofu, but it's terrible with any of the soy-based isolates. And again, sometimes I just find these things out the hard way when I was much younger, learning these different practices. But stay away from all the soy isolates. If anything, some tempeh, some natto, some sprouted organic tofu, that's about it. No soy milks, none of the isolates, none of the soy-based extracts. We don't want that, okay? Just as if we were doing in some of the longer-lived Asian-based cultures, small amount. We're talking about small amount, okay? But we need to balance that. And so if you're looking for zinc, we need to really look at, if you are vegan, we need to look at more of those vegan-based sources. Please go back to my previous podcast. Why don't I do this? If my team is listening right now, please link up the previous podcast I did in 2018, the Friday reviews, one on copper, because there's a lot of benefits to copper. And so I'm not going to talk negatively about copper the whole time. Copper overload, huge issue, okay? But copper is important. But I did a podcast somewhere around the first week of March 2018, second week of March 2018. So I want to make sure that we link that up. I've actually done 2. I did one the end of January, and then I did another one the beginning of March. So I wanted to make sure that we link those up, and the reason is that it's super important. Let's also link up the podcast I did on the importance of copper, because copper is needed for proper cellular energy. It's needed for thyroid. So don't get me wrong, we need copper. We just can't imbalance it. Now, the majority of zinc people typically get is from meat and from eggs. So if you don't have any eggs in your diet, if you don't have any meat in your diet, just make sure you're going for those vegan-based sources of zinc. Now, remember, it's going to take you 60 seconds to type in highest zinc sources or highest vegan food zinc sources, and you'll be able to find that. And again, I've done podcasts on it, but pumpkin seeds, like, you're going to be able to find sources, okay? So don't think that you need to start eating meat if you don't want to eat meat. But you have to balance it, right? So we need to balance it no matter what. We can't pretend like these issues don't exist. All right, so super important to look at that. Now, another thing that I want to bring up, a lot of people come to me and they've gone vegan because they have a difficult time digesting protein. I recommend people go vegan for spiritual-based reasons, because that is what connects with them. I don't necessarily recommend being completely vegan if it's just for your overall health, let's say. And that's because most people are not going to be so in tune with their diet and actually tracking all of their micros, not macros, but tracking their micros to make sure that they're getting everything they need. Or, well, if you do something like the Daily Foundational Protocol Level 2, you will basically get everything you need. But I need to make sure people are doing vegan right. And I've done many podcasts on this because I'm a full supporter of people on a vegan-based diet. And I've been vegan myself for cumulatively about a year and a half. Now, I'm not vegan right now, and I always want to let people know that. I'm very honest with people. I have a predominantly plant-based diet. There are many days of the week where I don't eat any fish or any eggs or any meat. I eat meat very sparingly. I eat some fish, though, and I eat 2 eggs once a week. So I always let people know exactly where I am. You might believe in that. You might not believe in that. That's okay. What I like to say is the majority of your diet should be plant-based, and we want to stay balanced. Okay, but here's what I was talking about with protein. So many people out there, when they have excess copper, it inhibits the body's ability to break down properly protein as well. So they start to feel more nauseous, more sluggish, more bloated. They kind of repulsed by protein. Well, that could simply be a lack of stomach acid, a lack of strong stomach mucosa, a lack of zinc, leading to those things that I just mentioned. So remember, if you have a lack of taste, if you have a repulsion towards a lot of these proteins, now maybe it is spiritual based. And again, good. Then I 100% support you on that, 100%. But if it's because you can't digest it, let's look elsewhere, okay? Let's make sure that you're able to get your stores back up. All right. Although not as significant, some sources of dental work can actually have copper in them. We always talk about mercury, talk about some aluminum, we talk about some nickel, but we don't always talk about there can be copper in some of these newer amalgams or dental-based work. So I just want you to keep that in mind, all right? And then the last part is this. A lot of people out there, they have what's called a impaired methylation process in their body, which simply means their body does not do as good a job with the liver, detoxifying, keeping inflammation in check, and being able to really utilize specific B vitamins, such as P5P or B6, B12, methylcobalamin or hydroxycobalamin or adenosylcobalamin, and methylfolate, as well as magnesium. And these can lead to issues such as ADD, ADHD, and a host of other learning-based issues as well. Never mind the PTSD, anxiety, OCD, etc. But it's exacerbated. It's absolutely exacerbated with higher levels of copper. So what do we do? Here's the thing. I want to repeat. We do not look at copper as the enemy. We need copper. But as we've learned from all of the great traditional naturopaths, functional medicine doctors, the ratio, everything in the body has a ratio. So, for example, calcium is about a 7-to-1. Zinc to copper is about a 12-to-1. So it ranges like this. It ranges from 8-to-1 to 15-to-1. How do we know? Well, there's a little bit of bio-individuality here. What does the person need? Are they higher stress? Well, they probably need more to the 15-to-1. Are they lower stress? Okay, 8-to-1. No methylation issues? 8-to-1. Higher methylation issues, more inflammation, more gut-based issues? 15-to-1. So typically I say right around a 12-to-1. That's why you'll see it when you look at the daily nutritional support. You'll see about a 12-to-1 ratio. That's not an accident. When you look at the balanced zinc, you'll see about a 12-to-1 ratio. Again, not an accident. Simply from me studying the works of all of these brilliant biochemists, nutritional biochemists, who look at the body, who've looked at hundreds of thousands of labs. And now I'm in that same category of just seeing that many labs. Do I still look to all of the brilliant mentors that I've had and all the books that I've read? All the time. All the time. Because if you believe in this industry, you know it all, that's when you're stuck. That's when you stop helping people. You need to continue to progress. And as I do podcasts like this, I'm reinforcing for myself, for all of our integrative health practitioners, that these are things that are serious, that we need to take a look at it. This is what I would recommend. There's 2 labs you can run. One is a hair tissue mineral analysis, the minerals and metals test, and that's my highest recommendation. Because not only will you get some of the metals, you'll also be looking at very specifically your copper or zinc levels. And your copper or zinc levels on a hair tissue mineral analysis show up better than any other place. And the reason is that we see excretion over time. I love the test. Love the lab. Simple. You can do it with a child. So let's say you have a child, 6 years old, diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, whatever it might be, very young age. What do we do? Do we start to medicate right away? Not in my opinion. Again, I will never judge anyone else, but not in my opinion. Do I want to put that child on amphetamines at 6 years old, 8 years old? No, because I know what that does to their HPA axis. I know what it does to their neurotransmitters, and I know what it does to their young developing brain, and it's not good. So what do? We need to look elsewhere. So running the starter kit for someone with ADD, ADHD, which is the organic acids test, also called the Candida Metabolic and vitamins test, along with that hair tissue mineral analysis, the minerals and metals, best place to start. No doubt about it, best place to start. That's what we call the starter kit. So now let's say that you do come up high on that, or you don't want to run the labs and you want to get away from these zinc inhibitors. Let's talk about zinc inhibitors. Alcohol, high processed sugar, too many carbs in the diet. Okay, too many grains. It's going to inhibit zinc. It wipes it out. Also, if you're on an acid blocker, you're not going to be able to absorb your zinc. Super important. Okay, I want to make sure that we're going easy on the foods that I mentioned before, which are the chocolate, the yeast leaven-based products, mushrooms, soy, the wheat germs, the wheat bran, the wheat flours. Believe it or not, organ meats can be a little higher in copper than zinc, where the meat itself would be a little bit higher in zinc. Coffee, and even coconut, okay? Coconut's not that big of one, but it's something to look at. We want to make sure also that we are adding then back in some of those higher zinc-based foods. Now, again, if you're vegan, my highest recommendation is pumpkin seeds. 2 tablespoons in your smoothie every morning, you're good to go, okay? That's your extra zinc. But if you can have eggs, especially the yolk, where you're going to get more of the zinc, meat, turkey, chicken, game meats, you're going to be higher in zinc. Now, again, I'm not promoting eating a lot of meat. I don't actually think it's the healthiest thing to do. Some meat, I don't have a problem with that. A lot of meat, I have a problem with that. I can't, in all honesty, the more I read and research, which is quite a bit, the more it's not a great idea to be overloading on a lot of meat. It would have been very unnatural to be eating meat every day, especially multiple times per day. Very unnatural for the gut, for the anabolic nature of the body, for raising insulin growth factor. Not ideal. Okay, let's get to some other things. How can we get rid of this copper? Well, a couple easy things. So one is we can do that sauna that we talk about. We can do an infrared sauna, even better, in terms of getting rid of heavy metals. We can do anything that will induce sweating. Okay, inducing sweating will help remove mold. It will ochratoxin A. It will help remove copper. Super, super important. Different types of teas, like a hibiscus tea, dandelion tea, will have some diuretic effect. Doing the equilibrium nutrition detox is going to help to open up those detox pathways. And then, super important, make sure that you are supplementing with additional zinc. It could be zinc picolinate. It could be chelated zinc of a different form. It can be monomethionine. Those are okay forms of zinc to be using. You can still use your activated multivitamin as long as it's an 8 to 12 to 1 ratio of zinc to copper. It will keep it in check. You're not going to have more because it keeps it in check. But you can add either higher zinc foods, like the pumpkin seeds, or, which is what I recommend, add an extra 25 milligrams a day of zinc. And that's an easy way to do it. Adding that extra 25 milligrams, 50 milligrams maximum of zinc, and you don't need to really do it for more than 12 weeks, maybe 16 weeks maximum, to help drive down copper. Now, why would that work? Well, if you put in the antagonist of anything, it's going to drive down the other one, which is why I'm not saying to do it necessarily for more at a higher dosage than 16 weeks. The higher the copper levels on your lab test, the longer you do the dosage and the higher the dosage. Now, the lower the levels, the less we need to do it, and the less dosage. Hopefully that makes sense. Other things that are very, very helpful, though, an activated B complex. 1 capsule at lunch, in addition to your daily nutritional support. Super easy. Vitamin C, anywhere from 1 gram to 3 grams a day will help without a doubt. It helps with chelation. It helps with so many other things. Alpha lipoic acid, there's a little bit always that I add for the daily nutritional support. But also, and this is important, and I really do recommend this, is that you do a heavy metal detox, a natural heavy metal detox. Cracked cell chlorella, cilantro, vitamin C with a biofilm disruptor. You can find the one that we use, which aren't even Equilibrium Nutrition products for the most part, over at equilibriumnutrition.com, and just type in heavy metal detox. You can find the starter kit there. You can find the minerals and metals test there. You can find zinc there. You can find vitamin C there. It's all there. It's exactly what we use in our practice. And I wanted to outline this today because I'm giving you exactly what we do in our practice. So not kind of like what we do, exactly what we do. And again, if this is for a child, you're going to go at a lower dosage. And I do recommend working with an integrative health practitioner. But a young child below 50 pounds, 10 milligrams of zinc. You're going to do a lower amount, plus whatever in their daily nutritional support or whatever they're using for their size. So that's what I recommend. Again, during that excretion process, you might feel a kick up of skin rash, of anxiety, of overwhelm, of digestive-based issues. That is just when to make sure that you're using your full-spectrum magnesium to help calm down that stress and anxiety, that you're using something like the Adrenal Soothe or part of the deep sleep protocol to help you get to sleep at night, to calm the body. Adrenal Soothe, 1 at lunch, 2 at dinner, a great protocol. Full-spectrum magnesium, 1 at lunch, 2 at dinner, helps really calm that nervous system as well. So again, I'm happy to help in any way that we can. We do this one-on-one inside of the private practice. If you ever want to apply, if you feel it's the right fit, you can just email support@equilibriumnutrition.com. Never feel an obligation to. You can run the labs right at equilibriumnutrition.com. You can do the protocols there. You can work with your local doctor. You can work with your local functional medicine doctor. You can keep listening to the podcast for free. You can read the Rain Barrel Effect. You can do our quarterly detox, whatever works for you. I just want to make sure that it's never for a lack of information, that you don't know how to get started, and you don't know what to do to take back control of your health and your body. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. I appreciate you. And as always, if this was helpful, please do feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could serve. Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp hearts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to stephencabral.com/resources.